When they talk about the case of the Honeymoon Killers, they usually focus on the headlines, the bizarre courtship, the dozens of victims, and the final electric chair sentence. But if you want to keep your viewers glued to the end, you have to tell the story through the single, horrifying detail that unlocked the whole conspiracy. This is a tale of lonely hearts, letters written in blood-red ink, and a crucial piece of evidence that almost got away. This is the case of Martha Beck and Raymond Fernandez. Our story begins in 1947, a time when personal classifieds, known then as Lonely Hearts ads, were the Tinder of their day. Imagine your typical target for these scams: a lonely widow, perhaps elderly, a woman left with a modest fortune and an empty house. Enter Martha Beck. Martha was none of those things. She was in her late 20s, over 300 pounds, and a single mother of two who had just lost her job at a children's hospital. Martha wasn't looking to scam a Lonely Hearts Club, she was joined one. This is where she meets her monster, Raymond Fernandez. Raymond was slick, charismatic, and a pathological liar. He made a living corresponding with lonely, wealthy women, charming them, and then making off with their life savings before vanishing. But when he meets Martha, something changes. This isn't just a mark. This is something else. Raymond isn't deterred by Martha's size, and she is instantly, dangerously smitten with his swarthy confidence. They begin an intense, breakneck romance. In a twist you couldn't write, Raymond tells Martha that they can be a team. Their scams will fund a life for them. Their love story will be built on the bodies of their victims. Their MO was simple, but terrifyingly effective. Martha and Raymond would travel from town to town, scouring the personal ads for their next lonely heart. The twist was how they presented themselves. Martha would pose as Raymond's sister. This instantly put their targets, all women, at ease. Who would suspect a doting sister of being part of a murder plot? This dynamic is where the core of the psychological horror lies. The victim wasn't just bringing home a suitor, they were bringing home an in-law. But behind closed doors, Martha's jealousy was a volatile, unpredictable force. Raymond had to play the part of the romantic suitor to these other women, a role he relished. But for every gentle touch he gave to a target, Martha's rage simmered. She was the one writing the seductive letters for Raymond. She was the architect of their victims' dreams and their eventual, violent ends. Your audience needs to feel this tension, the fake courtship playing out in the parlor, while in the next room, Martha boils with a lethal, possessive envy. This jealousy finally boiled over when they met Delphine Downing. Delphine was their classic mark, a vulnerable young widow in Michigan with a modest fortune. In 1949, Raymond and Martha, still posing as the sister, moved into Delphine's home and began their predatory dance. Raymond was charming, Martha was the helpful new sister. But one morning, Delphine makes a mistake that seals her fate. She walks into the kitchen and sees Raymond and Martha sharing a moment that is decidedly not sibling-like. She sees the truth. The timeline of the next 48 hours is a blur of panic and violence. Delphine is drugged, then strangled. Her young daughter is not spared. A scene of absolute carnage is cleaned up with an efficiency that hints at practice. They bury the bodies in a freshly cemented patch of the cellar. They could have been thousands of miles away by morning. They could have gotten away with it. But they didn't. This is where your viewer's heart should be in their throat.
Why?
Why didn't they run? Instead of fleeing, Raymond and Martha made the inexplicably arrogant decision to stay and enjoy the house. They made breakfast. They did laundry. They went to the movies that very afternoon to see a comedy. This incredible, chilling arrogance is a crucial part of the story. But as they left for the movies, they had to call a moving company. Their erratic and nervous behavior, combined with the sudden disappearance of the Downings, had a neighbor who was a true crime enthusiast herself, growing suspicious. The neighbor walks over. She listens. Silence. She sees the moving van arrive. This is the moment your viewers are waiting for. She walks around the house and notices something small, almost insignificant. On the back porch steps, where the Downings had left their clothes for the moving van, she sees a single, small red blotch. It's not red wine. It's not spilled jelly. It's blood. and it's fresh. The police are called. The moving turns into a crime scene investigation. Martha and Raymond are arrested immediately, claiming that Delphine had just left on a trip. But their story is as flimsy as paper. Then, a forensic anthropologist is brought in to examine the basement. The new concrete is chipped away. Your viewers should hear the sound of that chisel hitting rock. Underneath, they find the horrific confirmation. The Downings' bodies are recovered. In police custody, the relationship between Raymond and Martha immediately implodes. They flip on each other with stunning speed, each accusing the other of being the mastermind, of being the true killer. They are so desperate to save their own skin that they confirm their complex web of lies and crimes from dozens of cases across several states. It's the ultimate betrayal. The case goes to trial, and the Honeymoon Killers are a media sensation. Martha, in particular, becomes a figure of grotesque fascination. The papers are filled with vicious cartoon caricatures of her size and her savage crimes. But here is the detail that will keep your viewers glued. The defense tries a final, desperate strategy. They argue that Martha couldn't be guilty.
Why?
Because the very jealousy that drove her to kill was also proof of her innocence. The defense argues that Martha was so pathologically, insanely possessive of Raymond that she would never allow another woman to live in a house with them, let alone marry him. Her love, they argued, was so deep and terrifying that it made murder a logistical impossibility for her. It was a brilliant, but ultimately failed argument. The jury sees right through it. Martha Beck and Raymond Fernandez are convicted of murder. They are sentenced to death. On March 8, 1951, they are both executed by the electric chair at Sing Sing. But the tragedy didn't end with their deaths. The true tragedy lies in the wake of their path, the children left behind, and the lives forever shattered. To save herself and follow Raymond into his world of crime, Martha had abandoned her own 2 young children at a bus station, leaving them to a cold and uncertain future in the foster system. They grew up carrying the weight of a mother's infamy, living as ghosts in the shadow of a national monster. Even as Martha went to the chair, her final words were a profession of love for the man who led her to the gallows, never once mentioning the innocent lives she snuffed out or the children she discarded. In the end, there was no redemption, no remorse, and no peace for the survivors, only the cold, silent legacy of a love that was nothing more than a death sentence.